Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktavo, the parent company of GraphicsFlow, Inksoft, Printavo, SignTracker, and now Clarity. We're in the UK now. Welcome to our webinar today. I have a very special guest, Courtnee Wampole. Courtnee and I were colleagues, just a lot of commonality in terms of our life journey and our general philosophy about life and business. Courtnee was working in her own shop and then worked for Inktavo. I think you started as a CSM and then you migrated into one of our top performing salespeople. But her own business got too busy. And so she basically just went full time with her own imprint business that she runs with her husband, Brian. So Courtnee, how are you doing today? And do you want to give us a little bit of a background on how you got into this crazy business?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Craig. We were married pretty early, and I was in law school. I practiced for a bit, and then I wanted to stay home with our kids. So Brian had this business going. He had a 4-color, 1-station press in his parents' basement. So I didn't want to be home in that sense. So I said, let's see what we can do with the business. So we were back in Pennsylvania, just started doing it on the side and just trying to grow in the marketing and sales part of it. Kept growing. We moved out into a pole barn behind our house, and then we decided we wanted to move across the country. And so 2 years ago in August, we moved out west to Buffalo, Wyoming. So we are about halfway between Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore. We brought the business with us, had no clue what was going to happen to it. We just didn't want to miss the opportunity to live somewhere where we wanted to try out. So we kept shipping stuff to our Pennsylvania customers and our national customers, and we really just grown by word of mouth, local community connections. And I came to work for Inktavo just to kind of bridge that gap and kind of figure out where the business was going to go. Had a great time there, learned so much, and then the business here just blew up, and we continued to grow and got to a point where we had to really make a decision. Are we all in or are we all out? Because having one foot in and one foot out is not working for us anymore. And now we are full-time in it, both him and I, with a full-time employee and then a couple part-time helpers when we need it seasonally, and then, to help staff our retail front.
Yeah, the thing that I admire about you, amongst many things I admire about you, is your willingness for you and Brian to take that risk, move across the country, and honestly have no customers, zero, in your local area. So having to be relying on your remote customers back in Philly. What was that like? It had to be a little bit scary. Did it freak you out a little bit when you first got here?
I think there's an element too of we worked so hard. We poured our blood, sweat, and tears into this business, and to walk away or think we were walking away from something that we had built from the ground up and saying there's a potential that this business is not going to exist anymore. But in terms of life goals, where are we at and what do we want to do and what's most important for us to not miss out on? And we didn't want to turn around when our kids were grown and in college or had their own families and say, why didn't we try something, And so it was really important for us to make that move, try it out, even if that meant the business was going to go away, and just kind of see where life was going to take us. But it was definitely scary because, you're sad. You worked so hard to build this up and get to where you are. And then there's the potential that it's not going to exist anymore. And we definitely learned from this that your customers really follow you and they really want to buy from the person. It's not so much the location. And it's really refreshing to see that when you have a good customer success, team, and you have a good product, you're good people will follow you.
Yeah, you taught me that lesson. You said something to me once about, Craig, when it honestly gets down to it, it's really people buy from people. If you can connect with that person on a human level, you don't have to have the best product. You don't have to have the cheapest product, but nurturing those relationships is something that I think you and Brian have really leaned into, especially in a small town. Everybody knows everybody.
I sometimes feel more pressure here than I did when we were back east because you are so right. We are in a town. It's about 4,000 people. Where we were from in Pennsylvania, it's little linking suburbs, all the way to Philadelphia. And so you're driving through towns and you don't know what town you're in next. But when you leave Buffalo, there's nothing for 30 miles, at least in one direction. And so, if you're not doing a good job, if you're not providing a good experience, word does travel fast. And a lot of stuff is just based on referrals here, word of mouth. Hey, I heard you from so-and-so or this or that. And so I do feel more of an element of pressure here than I did back east for sure.
Describe your customer base briefly, and then we'll kind of get right into some of your best practices and things that you learned about your business.
So our customer base is mostly business to business. We do a lot of teams, organizations, nonprofits, churches, corporate, small to mid-sized. And that pretty much transitioned right over to here. In Wyoming, we're doing more ranch, we're doing more oil and gas, doing more niche markets out here, doing a lot of construction. We're selling that business to business. They can go online, they can go to someone, they can go to a Fort Imprint or something like that. But at the end of the day, we're trying to take away that pain point of trying to do that process, trying to go online, make sure the art's right, make sure this is right. They want to be able to pick up the phone and talk to someone, get recommendations. You're the expert. What do you recommend? And take that away from these busy professionals or these busy organization leaders. And then here we do have a retail front. It's a small part of our shop. But we do have a lot of tourists come through because of where we're located. And so we have been able to stock blank inventory out front and then do print on demand for people who are coming through looking for tourist merch.
So you had quite the growth spurt. And I know you and Brian used to kind of brute force it, the Excel spreadsheets, Post-it notes, assorted refrigerator scribble notes, all that kind of stuff. What was kind of the turning point when you guys decided that you needed to take a look at technology and modernize?
It was a slow burn that was ending in a lot of strife. We were working off of spreadsheets and Post-it notes and text messages and phones. And it just got to be too much where we were, printing jobs, making mistakes, or looking unprofessional in front of the customer because we'd already discussed their order a week and a half ago, but I couldn't remember what they said. Didn't want to make a mistake. So now you're texting them saying, hey, remind me what we're doing again. And that doesn't make anyone confident. We started to lose jobs in terms of not being organized. So to be able to attack the sales for that part of it. But then also having to reprint jobs. One of our theories is and I think it has led to our success, is that if you're not happy with your experience or you're not happy with your work product that we put out, and obviously there's limitations to this, right? But we're trying to put out the best product that we can for our customers, and we will stand behind that. So if it's on us and we've made a mistake, we make it right. And so we were trying to make too many jobs right that should have been right the first time, and that became our fault. And so financially, I said to Brian, we're spending money redoing these jobs. We can spend money on software. So we're not redoing these jobs, and we're coming out even or on top of it. And so it just got to be too much, couldn't have expanded, and then needing more resources in terms of people to run it and to help us manage all of that.
So you decided to adopt technology, which is always a little scary. And so what was your first leap into technology? What was the first thing you looked at? How did you tackle it?
We started with Printavo 2018 or 2019, but we had been going to trade shows every year. And I am the tech person. I do all the sales, the marketing, and all of the computer stuff. Brian runs the presses. He does the embroidery. So he's the hands-on. So tech's my thing. He always wanted a new piece of equipment. I think it got down to, okay, you're getting your 6-head embroidery machine. What are we getting for me? Because mistakes happen a lot faster when you're running 6 at a time than when you're running one piece at a time. So we had, really entertained Printavo for a number of years. And I would always go to the booth. I really want this. I really want this. And finally, we just took that leap and decided that it was something that we needed to do if we were going to grow. Or even if we didn't want to grow, we just needed to be more efficient and save some money.
You guys are using Adobe products on your graphics, right? And then GraphicsFlow, and then e-commerce is Inksoft, and then what is your CRM?
Yeah, our CRM. So for people who don't know, CRM is Customer Relationship Manager. Highly recommend one. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need to spend a lot of money on it. We use something called one-page CRM. It's really action-based. So it's really to not take orders in and not to manage the production process, but it's to manage the sales process. something that I learned working at Inktovo was that sales process is really similar across all companies, no matter how big or small you are. There's still that same process that goes for all of them, right? You might be running more reports and getting more granular with your data as you're a bigger company, but you still need to have those actions in place. Hey, this person came in. This is their name. This is their phone number. This is their email. This is what they're looking for. Who's calling them back? Who's emailing them? When do we need to follow up? And so it allows you to create tasks onto each customer and then remind you, hey, it's 3 weeks later now, you haven't heard from them. Did they ever approve the order? Or do they still need something for their event next time, this time next year? And so it's super important for us, instead of running that off of spreadsheets and notepads and text messages and Post-it notes, to have something in place like that.
Well, you talk about a shop, a apparel decoration shop. The off-the-shelf products don't particularly fit great around apparel decoration. And what's been your experience with that? And I actually want to dip into Printavo and have you kind of show some of the things that you're doing in your best practices and workflow. But did you guys try using like a Trello or any kind of general project management before you guys dipped into Printavo?
We did. I tried to make a process with Google Sheets or like email or something that was pretty non-specific. Tried to Trello. For us, it was really the proofing process and the approval process. We still have not pushback, but you still have those customers that are like, oh yeah, it looks great. Go ahead with it. And so, but we really wanted to capture that as a formality, because no one turns out happy when you're not really crossing those T's and dotting your I's. So we needed something that was specific to the industry, because you can try and make some of those off-the-shelf products work as much as you can, but at the end of the day, you're spending so much time trying to figure out how to run it and how to fix it that something's already made. What's nice about Printavo is that even some of these products that are shop management specific to our industry, they do have a feel of like, this is how you do things, or this is how we should do things here. First you do this, then you do that. What was really nice for Printavo is that you can do it exactly how you've been doing it, and you can really control all of your statuses, can make them say what you want. I think we have, some pretty unique businesses that are even using Printavo that aren't in the screen printing industry, because it is so flexible in terms of that, construction or some of those kinds of businesses where you can change those statuses to be whatever you want to fit your business. No two platforms are going to look exactly alike.
So I just opened up the very familiar Printavo demo account. So talk about your day to day, and like you're talking to a customer, you need to put in a quote, and what's it going to look like? You're going to obviously go in and create a quote. What happens from there?
Yeah, so you're either creating a new customer, you're creating a new quote, and then you're going through setting dates, setting products. It's nice is that you're connected already with the products. You can add your own custom products. And so some of those things with the off-the-shelf products, they don't have a pickup date, or they don't have this is when you need it by, or being able to create mock-ups, being able to duplicate orders. It's super nice to just come in here, put all the information in. One of the things that I've started doing too is that we have a lot of walk-in people just like to come visit. And so they'll come in to put their order in, and not just like a one-off shirt. They'll come in and they want to talk about their order. They want to touch and feel samples. They want to look at art, whatever. So I will do this while they're there, because I found that if I wrote it down on something, right, or passed it off to someone else, it still kind of gets put on the back burner. So it's so easy to stand with them, put all of this information in, and then send it off to the next place in your production or your, chain flow of how you run your shop that it needs to go.
Yeah, I just popped into the imprint management side of Printavo, and I know that you use pricing matrices. How granular do you go with your pricing matrices? So just for the viewers, one of the things that we can do is we can download a spreadsheet template and put all of our pricing data, like, quantity discounts, decoration costs, and basically take a grid and upload it. And then we can have customer specific pricing, and the demo account's got quite a bit of different pricing, wholesale, retail, contract pricing. But how granular do you get with your pricing matrices?
We have a couple tiers for different markup amounts. That's kind of how we generate our tiered pricing. And then within each tier, we have our breakdowns by color or thread count.
Once you get that put in, then you just refresh your pricing and have the software come. Do you usually round up? Like if you round up, how far do you round up?
Yeah, we do. I usually go to at least the 5, the nickel,
Yeah.
but usually it's the 50%. I think one of the nicest things about this too is if you have a lot of shops on this webinar that are doing a lot of repeat business, you're repeating for customers. It is so nice to be able to go into the customer. They walk in, they're like, hey, I need another 100 shirts, or I need, to order 25 more. You can find that exact job, click duplicate, and then fix up the dates, change pricing if you need to. If it's been a year, if it's been a week or 2 weeks, it's right there. And within literally 30 seconds, you have been able to send that out to them. They can pay, approve everything, and you have a job that you're ready to go on.
Like, what are the typical fees that you would charge beyond just, like a rush order? Do you charge a rush order fee?
It depends. It's so hard.
Right.
I like the matrices. We use them. We have like a general starting point, but a lot of you guys know on here, every customer is so different and every job is so different. We don't share a screen. We don't share like a price list. We don't publicize it because there's reasons why I would want to make something less or more or not do it, price myself out. So, every job is so specific. There's so many variables. And I think it's good to have a starting point for sure, but definitely want to be able to tweak stuff. We do charge embroidery, obviously digitizing, we charge. Screen setups, I go back and forth. It kind of depends the optics of that, right? Do you want to just have that built into your per piece price so people have that all-in-one pricing? Some of the stuff we put down there would be like shipping fees if we're shipping something. But I try and make it as digestible and as like easy to view and easy to digest for the customer as I can.
Courtney does the embroidery for our trade show uniforms. And so I'm sitting here thinking, hey, I'm going to have all these blanks shipped into Courtney. And then at some point, she's just going to embroider them, ship them off to us, and then I'll get a bill set at some point. But that's not how it worked. And so
I have to look good in front of you guys, right? Yeah, I mean, it has to be professional.
Yeah, so the blanks arrived. All of a sudden, I get this text message, and it says, approve your order. So she had the little mock-up in there with the blanks on it, and then it had approve and pay. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not getting terms here. And for me, it was just being lazy about filling out a expense report. But I was like, well, hey, let's experience what a customer experience is. And I did my little digital signature, and the little credit card thing popped up. And I put my credit card in, and it was done, out of sight, out of mind. And it emailed me a receipt, and I just screen grabbed that and uploaded into our Expensify account, and I was done. It was all done. Made it super easy. And so, I need to have you do a little bit more embroidery here on our quarter zips here shortly. And I know that's how it's going to work. So she's conditioned me to pay up front. How important has embedded payments, and also talk a little bit about, some of the financing struggles you have with POs and how you've kind of adapted payments around that. But all she had to do is she just went and hit in her Printavo. All these are the standard journey of an order that she set up all her custom statuses. So obviously you had a status that sent me the text message here. And then I got the text message, clicked that, and I was done. So I know that you use the automated payments that are embedded into Printavo. What's your honest opinion about that?
Love it. We, as new customers come in, we try, and it's hard for me. I think if you are confident about it and you're confident about asking for the money up front and you're running a good process on the front end, right? If you're not getting back to someone for 3 weeks and then you send them a mock-up and then you send them pricing 3 days later and then you don't get back to them for 3 weeks and then you want all of the money up front, I think it's a little more difficult to like pay someone and be like, okay, am I ever going to see my shirts? But if you are running a good process up front, you have good customer service, good relationships, people are really conditioned now. Like when they go on Amazon or they go on any of these other places, you're paying 100% before you even see a proof. I have a bit of a gray area in terms of what I will do art-wise before they pay. And I still honestly, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is definitely an order. They gave me all the sizes. And then I go to send the approvals, but I get the job in the door. I go to send the approvals and then like, oh, we're going to wait because we want to try and get something else, but we're not sure what we want to do yet. Then I have products sitting in the shop and I'm like, oh, This is why I get prepayment. And I kick myself. And it happens like once every 6 months. Like I make an exception and then that's what happens. So it's great though. You condition them to do it. I get a lot of questions about this. If they're doing customer supplied stuff, I'm okay with them paying when they pick up because you have their items, you have their garment. And that's a whole other webinar series about customer supplied goods, quite honestly. But you have their stuff. So at least you have something to like hold over them in terms of like the payment. And if it's someone new that they're not super comfortable, like, I don't know, I've been burned 8 times in the past. I don't know how this is going to look, but now they have all my money. They don't know me. I'll make an exception and do a 50% down just so I can cover myself with the goods. But it's been great, honestly. It's easy. People like it. They like technology. They like the ease of use with it. And we couldn't operate without it, really.
And the text messaging is massive, in my opinion.
I actually have a lot of customers that have come in the past couple of days where they're just giving me a phone number. Some of these, some people don't go on email. They go on email not that often, but they always have their phone. And so they're saying, I just want to be texted, actually. I'm not going to look at an email. So make sure you're texting it to me.
Yeah, I'm just clicking on a payment request, and I can also do multi-payment requests, so I can combine multiple invoices into a single request. But what they see on their computer or their tablet is going to be something like this. And then if they click on approve, they're going to have to put in their digital signature in here. And then, if they have a saved credit card, they can go in, and then they can also just pay as a guest or sign in. And so now you have them conditioned to pay up front. And also with the mobile app, I don't know if I love the mobile app because I can just peek in the mobile app and see everything that's going on in my shop. If I've got a panicked text message, I suppose, from an employee, or in your case, it'd probably be from Brian. You don't have to go jump in front of a computer. You can just pop into the Printavo mobile app. But I think it's just about making it easy for customers to pay and conditioning them to pay up front. So you, unfortunately, have to deal with some big corporations that are on POs and also schools where, let's face it, if they say net 30, it's what, net 45, net 60. So how are you able to cash flow that?
So terms with vendors is a great one. Some of these, I always try it and just see if I send the payment request and then see what they say back and then kind of figure out where we're going to go from here. Because there are ways that some of these businesses or corporations, right, they might have an expense card and then they expense it and then they have to wait for the payment, which is fine. I actually set up a automation in my system that any school district invoices for this particular school district, there's a status for it and it sends it directly to the district office with the PO number attached to it so that I don't have to email it manually to a different person. We've used capital payments for Printavo. The first time I got it, I was like, oh, what's this? And it's basically cash advances based on how much sales you're doing and really just fill out a form and then the money's in your bank account. So they send offers periodically based on the numbers that they run on the payments. And obviously there's interest on it and stuff, but the repay is a percentage of your sales. So, if you need an advance for a new machine or you need some cash flow to cash flow something and you're not able to get the capital payments, has been great to have that option for sure.
So I get to go into the dashboard and see all the different loans that customers have taken. And I was looking at the usage statistics, and 25% of it was equipment purchases.
Yeah.
And the next biggest spot, 25%, was inventory. So if you have a lot of blank goods out and you don't necessarily have favorable terms with your suppliers, or some of them require prepayment, and then obviously a lot of other things, hiring and payroll and marketing and remodeling were some of the things that came up. But yeah, it's really a kind of an awesome functionality of the Printavo and Inksoft platforms that have access to that capital financing, so you can help cash flow your business. Have your sales. Your loan is against those sales, right? And then it's being taken out as a percentage of your processing, and then you're at zero, right? But then all of a sudden you build up again and you have another offer. So it's not a one and done thing. I was really happy to hear that it had been helpful to your business.
The ease of it, I think, was the nicest thing because you're not going to find tax returns. They're literally basing it on sales numbers that they can see because of your payments through Printavo.
I'm in an Inksoft. This is kind of our test Inksoft store. We've done a lot of fun things in this store. It's got designs that you can click on and do like just name drops based on this design, not a generic design, but it's just kind of a test store. But one of the things I did is I placed a couple orders through this store earlier, and I placed an order for just an ash colored tee. And then I also placed an order for these Richardson hats. And so because my Inksoft account and my Printavo account are connected, they are going to flow into what's called storefronts in Printavo. And so storefronts is just where Printavo is its own merch platform. It's kind of a simple kind of online order form. It's not like Inksoft where it's a whole web store experience, but for that store, those orders flowed in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two orders and we're going to convert these back. I'm actually going to convert those back to an invoice. I just would go into the orders portal. And so if you've got orders trickling in over time, and you just want to let them trickle in from your store, and then all at once you just want to select them all and convert them to an invoice, it's going to collate everything together. So here's the order that was collated. But here's the two orders. So I had that order for the t-shirt, and I had the other order for the t-shirt and the hat. And I'm just going to go and click into this real quick. What we're going to do is kind of talk through how you use the power scheduler. So 2 ways to schedule in Inksoft. Can you talk about like calendar versus power scheduler?
I use the calendar every day. Our account manager uses calendar every day. We're looking at that as our high level view of everything that's going on at one time in the shop. So you're seeing what status the order is in. If you click on it, you can see what tasks are outstanding. And if you needed to click into the job or change the status from there, you could. On that calendar view, there's also a weekly and daily view. So if, sometimes I'm on the daily view just because the monthly view, we have so much going on. So you can actually get pretty granular if you wanted to get into the daily view and see those jobs right on there, weekly view and stuff like that. I don't have any of our production people really looking at this calendar on a high level view. They just need to know what they're doing, what jobs are ready, and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So once my job hits pre-production, it gets added to the power scheduler, and we have micro steps on that power scheduler and different views for different people who do different things.
What you're talking about is the new order comes in, you cycle it through your regular production. So it's already been approved because it was an online order. So you're probably going to just move it into art. In our workflow, you'd move it into art. There's a couple tasks associated with art there, assign them out to the artist. And then when they're all done, art approved. Now, this is interesting. In this account, if I go art approved, it's going to apply these 6 tasks, but you wouldn't do it that way. You wouldn't use these 6 tasks. You'd use the power scheduler to handle all the tasking, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We have a set of tasks once the job is approved. So we have it go through order approval first, and that's a high level order approval. So I'm not even talking about mock-ups. If I have good art, I'll send it out with it. But there's been those times where we do artwork, send it out, and they're like, oh, just kidding, we're not going to order. So we do an order approval first, then I get prepayment, and then I work on the mock-ups. Again, that's like a little bit of my gray area because there's people I know who are good for it, and it's timely. I need to get it done. But if it's a brand new customer just walking in the door and they're asking me to do really robust art for like 24 shirts, I'm getting order approval payment, and then I'm doing art. Once the art's approved, we move it into pre-production, and there's a handful of tasks on there that are for the account manager, but then it's really all power scheduler based with like the printing process of that.
Yeah. So the first thing that I need to do before I move it onto power scheduler, I need to set the imprint type, because we don't necessarily know from an Inksoft store. We don't necessarily know if we're going to DTG it based on the quantity, or we might have DTF transfers, a small order, we're going to do it with TTF. Or we ran that store for a month and we've got 200 pieces, and definitely going to screen print those. So I've got that latitude to kind of decide what the imprint is. And obviously the hats are embroidered, but I just assigned the t-shirts to be screen printed. And then what's going to happen here is, it's going to drop it onto the power scheduler. And the reason it's going to put it on the power scheduler is I have an automation set up. So when I move this from art to pre-production, it just automatically schedules. Can you kind of walk through what you're seeing right here and how you would use this part? And then we'll actually go into the scheduler.
Yes. So that first chunk of it over to where it says receiving and you see those boxes, that first chunk is all generated by your invoice itself. And when Craig says scheduled, it doesn't mean you're deciding we're doing this job on this day. It's just popping it onto the schedule, onto that, area of Printavo, where these are the jobs that need to be produced at some point. And then all of those boxes that go from receiving all the way over, those columns are customizable based on what you do in your shop. So not everyone say the same thing, and they really say what you guys wanted to say. So like those different steps under there, you type all that out and you decide what you want those different steps to be specific to your shop. Once something goes to pre-production, we used to have statuses and we weren't using the power scheduler, but we found that it was really confusing for everyone to figure out what's going on right now, because so many things are happening during production and pre-production at the same time. Unless you have all of these iterations of statuses, it's impossible to capture everything at once. And so we started using the power scheduler because you can see, here are all these steps that you have to do to produce this job, but there's different people working on them all at the same time. And then that way people can go in and see exactly what their task is and what they're supposed to be doing, but also what's going on with someone else. And this is why we're waiting on this job, or this is what happened here.
Okay, I want to point a couple things out. So while you were talking, I went and estimated the minutes it would take for those 84 units. And I know I'm going to put that on the auto because my threshold for the auto is about 72, where I'm willing to do that. And so I assigned it to the auto one, and then it's a 72-piece order. I'm not going to do that on my 1 or my 2 head, so I'm going to put it on my 6 head. I'm not going to put it on a date here yet because I don't know where I sit in terms of capacity. So what I'm going to do here, once I have this done, is I'm actually going to move over to the power scheduler. And so in screen printing, auto 1, that job is just chilling out in here. So it's just right here. And then I can look down in terms of my production capacity and see where I've got some space. So Sunday, we had some folks coming in on Sunday. I'm maxed out on Sunday. So on this one job here, looks like I've got some capacity on Monday. So it's pretty easy for me to just go in here, either click the date or drag and drop it into Monday. It's kind of wherever I want to put it. And at this point I could, switch it up and put it on auto 2 too. I don't have to keep it on auto 1, but I'm just going to put it into Monday the 14th. So no, it's no longer unassigned. But what talk about like views, because right now we have these different views that are set up. I cruise over to list view. Talk about how you use views.
So we are mostly in the list view. Actually, we're in our specific views mostly, but group view kind of shows that calendar level. This list view shows everything at one time. All those jobs that you put on the schedule, they're all sitting there. So you can filter everything else out and just say, okay, I have my guy that does screens. This is what he needs to see every day. So I have an iPad or a monitor or something in that room, near that room, whatever. And he's coming in, he's looking at all the jobs that are going on, that are available to do. And then he can check off what's going on when they're done. And then that can trigger automations to other things. But that way, when your sales team or your account manager comes in and sees like, why is this job held up? It's supposed to go out tomorrow. They're going in to the actual invoice, clicking on that tab and say, oh, there's an issue in the screen room. And then, hey, did that person put a task on something? Maybe the art needs to go back. And so I just need my people who are doing specific jobs to be hyper-focused on that job and get rid of all of the noise. So they can come in and see, these are the screens to do today. This is what I need to get done, and then move on.
I'm going to move over to embroidery real quick because it's even, I think our embroidery is even a little bit more granular there. So we're basically creating workflows for the different processes. So I always like to explain it is the main journey of the order is the statuses. Every order follows that same general journey. There's a few exceptions to that, but every order follows the same general journey. But this is the side trip for the process. So I could handle the side trip just by creating a zillion tasks, but then I got to manage all these tasks and it's just hard to keep track of and it's stressful. But so rather than having the tasks in a checklist, what we do is we add them to the power scheduler. So all the tasks are over here. And so when I'm doing this, here's all my tasks, and I only have to look at the things that apply to me. So if I'm in the digitizer, I can see where I'm at and where my backlog is. And you notice when I click finish, it's going to drop off. Or if I'm in production, have we started production? Have we finished production? Receiving? Are the goods in yet? And so as a manager, I can pop my head in and say, why are we backed up here? Well, it's because so-and-so didn't place the order. It's really a pretty incredible tool. I think it's one of my favorite parts of Printavo, and I think you preach a little bit about this too.
Yeah, so you don't have to be scheduling jobs and having 5 automatics to be using the power scheduler. We don't even use that group view too much to assign jobs. We'll start to do it when we get really, really busy or kind of estimate time and stuff. But when, we're really using that list view and all of those little sub views to really manage all of those little steps. So I'm looking at your digitizing, and if you go to that digitizing tab there, and the drop downs for test sew out so we have a column that says DST. We use some different digitizers for different things. So our steps say like sub whatever and the names of the different companies, so that when someone can come in and see like where they need to pull the DST from, or if there's an issue, that's what login they use to get in there and to fix that DST. So you can get so specific. It doesn't just have to say not started, finished, issue. You can literally type the steps to be whatever you want. If you sub out your screen printing, could be a subcontractor category, and it could list all the contractors that you guys use so everyone knows where that job is. There's just a lot of really cool ways that you can use it.
Yeah, and then you set up your own views, you set up the order of the views, the columns, what are the drop downs. It takes a little while to set up, but you're doing that anyways. So just doing it once to get it set up properly, and our CSM team is going to help you with that. I think the power scheduler is a really important thing. One of the things that you, I think, we're talking about earlier as part of the insanity was the errors, and that were a result of probably just too many things to keep track of. Human beings are prone to mistake. How has controlling statuses and automation helped you with error reduction?
It's helped a ton. You definitely have to use it in order to feel the benefit of it. One of the things that you just said, Craig, is you have to set this up. You have to go in and set it up. And one of my things is always like, it feels like this hurdle to do that the first time. And it's not just with Printavo or Inksoft or a tech stack, it's for other things too. Doing that first hurdle, that first step is always the hardest. But once you do it, the payback is so good, and it benefits so much that the more you do it and the more you really start to come up with those processes and procedures and take the time to flesh those things out, the more benefit you see, and it makes it easier to do it the next time. So you definitely have to do it and use it. And then you have to really stick to it, at least for the most part. There's still people that, oh, it looks good, I looked at it. And then they'll call me the next day and be like, oh, I just saw this. It was supposed to be use smalls, but they approved it, right? And so, right. I mean, you're always going to have those scenarios. People look at it or don't look at it and just hit it. And I don't know, it's nothing. It's not going to make everything black and white, but in terms of like efficiency and helping us run our shop, decreasing mistakes, it's done all of those things by leaps and bounds. And we couldn't have scaled to where we are without this, honestly.
So you were kind enough to share some links for some of the web stores you host with your Inksoft platform. Can you talk a little bit about how you've shifted a good portion of your business away from bulk orders to web stores, how it's helped you to attract new customers, kind of the general impact on hosting stores for your customers?
Especially some of the corporate here has multiple locations. There is hospital, medical, a lot of industry here, and a lot of people with different locations in different parts of the country. So they're really looking for that store feel so that their employees can go on, pick what they want. You're drop shipping it for them. It's taking something off of their plate. And so that has been super helpful. A lot of inquiries about it, and we already had it. So we have that functionality. A lot of the coaches, organizations, it becomes a nightmare to collect all those sizes, to collect the payments, to collect money for swag. And they just want to coach the team. They want to take it off of their plate. And so they love that we can just pop a store up and then it's hands off for them. No questions asked. There's no catch to it. So it's been really helpful for that. I'm a big believer that this functionality is out there. It's out there in leaps and bounds. There's lots of places that have it. There's lots of things that, lots of ways that you can get this experience. And if you're not giving it to your customers, they're going to find it somewhere else. And you'd be naive to think that they're not going to try and take your bulk. Hey, do you need 200 of these? Yeah, we can do that, And so you want to be able to offer this because you're going to lose business somewhere else if you're not offering this feel.
E-commerce isn't what you think it is. People think e-commerce is you have your main store and you have products you're going to sell on your main store, and maybe it's local things you do for the community, or you're going to set up sub pages where you have products for different customers. Yeah, that's part of it. But the word e-commerce really is about controlling the client and creating an easy way for them to buy it. Because one of the things that you can do with Inksoft is the customer has they have an account. They placed an order at Inksoft and they want to see, if you give them permission and you want them to see like how their store is doing as the admin, they can do that. If they want to see all their orders and initiate a reorder, they can do that. So it creates kind of that Amazon-like buying experience, which is one of the things that I really enjoy about Inksoft. But I mean, you've used other platforms, and I think you used Printavo Merch in the past. What are some of the key differences you found by shifting your stores over to Inksoft?
The visual part of it, there's a lot more you can do with the visual part of it. It definitely has a more professional feel. If you go to that Grouse Mountain store, that create an account with your email to redeem points certificates. So they have like a employee program where they give points and then they can come on here, can load the money onto that particular account for that customer, and then they can just draw down and buy stuff off of the store. So there's a lot of things that it can do that are more robust for a merch store, especially one that's going to be always open. And then, on these stores, I don't have it available where you can create a design, but, we do have our art portal where, you can go in and people can have that custom ink feel and make their own designs. We've had a lot of people that like to do that. They know we have it. And so instead of me getting a screenshot from Canva or from Custom Ink, they're doing it right here. And that's really nice because it saves you money and time on art. They're able to go in there and just do that. So it's just more robust. We still use Printavo Merch, honestly, for those order taking, really, really, really simple stores. It's like, hey, we're offering one t-shirt to the team or the organization. I just need them to go in and put their size in and the parent pay for it. And we'll still use that just because they just need something super simple.
There's just absolutely crazy stuff that you can do with Inksoft Store in terms of like your revenue sharing model. So let's say store, are you giving a customer a wholesale price and then billing them at the end of the month, or are you giving them a percentage of gross sales based on a predetermined percentage? How do you normally handle that?
Kind of just depends on who the customer is and what their goal is. I have some people say, we don't need to make money on it. We don't want anything from it. Other people, they want to do that, which is great. But I'm very specific and I say like, listen, there's a chance that you sell, like I know you think this design is amazing and that every single person in the organization is going to order it, but it doesn't always happen that way. And there's sometimes that you put a product up here and it doesn't sell anything, or you put a product up there and it sells one thing. So I have to be super upfront with them and just say, listen, this pricing is based on us literally printing one of these. Like there's a chance that I will print one of these shirts and I'm going to have to base my price on that one piece. And then I give them the option to fundraise off of that if they want. So, hey, our price is $25. Do you want to add that? And then we'll give them that money back in a check at the end of the store or at predetermined times. Or a percentage. Kind of just depends on what they want to do.
Yeah, I call it the brother-in-law graphic, my brother-in-law did this graphic and, they're emotionally attached to it. And you have been in the business long enough, and I have too, where I can look at something and say, hey, that's probably not going to sell. But I think the advantage to them is there's no risk to them. So it's a give and take, right? So they're going to get a revenue share. It's not going to be like as nearly as big a discount if they were bellying up and doing a bulk order for 200 pieces. They don't have any risk. And if the graphics are good, then the product moves. So I think steering the customer into better graphics and just being real with them. And also just saying, hey, listen, this is another store I did for a customer. Let me show you what we did over here. And we did some fun things that were kind of tied into local, kind of a collegiate look. And this worked really well. We can do something similar to this for you. It's actually a really nice looking graphic. So how do you manage the graphics? Because I know for a fact customers don't know what it takes to produce graphics. They think they somehow magically appear out of the ether. So how do you deal with that in your business?
Oh, art and pricing are like the two things. Well, there's a lot of hot button issues, honestly. We could have a whole thing on this, but art is tricky too. I talked a little bit about what the buy-in I have to have from the customer in order to start doing art. Starting out, and this is something I learned at Inktovo too, is like, people don't necessarily want to hear all of the, they don't want to hear all in sales generally, I guess, like a sales tactic. They don't want to hear all of the details. They don't want to hear why you would do it this way versus why you want to do it that way. They want their shirt to be good quality. They want it to look like that. And they want to know what the price is. Then after that, they don't care. And so we used to go back and forth with art and, hey, this isn't vector, or needs to be this, or okay, you're saving it as a PDF, but that doesn't mean it was created as vector. Oh, but it's a PDF, but it's not. Okay, but I was wasting so much of my time trying to explain that. So for a lot of that stuff, we have a remote art department that we outsource. So all of our stuff goes and gets mock-ups done. It gets vector, it gets production files. If you don't have an in-house artist, looking into some of these sourced art companies it is one of the best things we have ever done, honestly, because we are able to spend time selling and producing, and it's cheaper than hiring an employee in-house. We take that, monthly payment or whatever, and we're adding that into our pricing model so that we're covering that. And then it gets kind of sticky from there in terms of like, if someone's asking you to literally design their brand logo from the ground up, that's something that you need to charge for. Or they need to go to a brand agency or a marketing place, have that done, and you get the files, right? It's like, what do you want to specify yourself in, and what do you want to, spend your time doing? What are you really good at? And then sub the rest of the stuff out that's not your thing. GraphicsFlow has helped us. And I talked a little bit about what Inksoft's mockups, their mockup creator, and then, their custom art creation has super helped, because people who want 2 shirts for a Christmas gift, that's a joke, can go in here and create it on their own, or come into this portal here and then say, I like this one, but can you change it to say this or that or the other thing? So these are like really what I describe as like really awesome screenshots of stuff that will be trending online, but you can make the changes yourself. So you're not having to pay on Etsy for that PNG download, or you're not having to have someone else recreate this, or you spend 2 hours recreating this in order to get a 2-shirt order. Like, you want to be able to say yes to those jobs, but you want to be able to say yes to them where you're still putting money in your pocket.
Yeah, I'd showed a slide before that was Graphics Source. I'm just kind of manipulating a design here in GraphicsFlow. If you're not familiar with GraphicsFlow, it's a online art collaboration and design tool. And so anybody in your staff can create vector graphics that are production ready without any art capability at all. And then you mentioned that you connect that with your art portal. So you have a portal on your main website where the customer can just view these designs and submit graphics. So what they would do here is, if they wanted to do a Western graphic, they could just come in here and type in Western, and here's that graphic that we were just working on. And then they add it, submit it, they click on a little form, it comes to you, and then you literally just click on it in your GraphicsFlow account, and you're doing this. So, as far as like, I think you've used this for like some of the tourist and resort stuff in your retail store too. Is that correct?
So yeah, we use it quite a bit, and you're still going to get the people that come and say, hey, I want, this design on this shirt. And you kind of have to choose, are you increasing your price on a per piece level, showing it to them, all those tactics,
Yeah, I think it's being able to have that upfront conversation with the customer about art and the value of art and what your boundaries are is a chief kind of governor of your profitability. And, I hear customers, talk to them at trade shows, and like, yeah, I can't really help myself. We end up spending all this time on customer on these small orders, and it just doesn't make sense, but we don't necessarily have an alternative. So the other thing that I wanted to chat about quick, and this is kind of fun stuff to talk about, what was the one challenge that nearly broke you, and how'd you get through it?
I mentioned this to you the other day, I think, was deciding what we're doing. Are we going all in on this? Am I, continuing with my career path, whether that was with Inktovo or going back to practice law? Or is it going all in on this business that we poured our blood, sweat, and tears into? And it was a challenge. It was hard. But it was to the point where we couldn't do both. And I really had to just make that decision. And it definitely almost broke us. We had one foot in the door somewhere else, and then I had one foot in the door here and trying to raise a family. And it's like taking that leap of faith and being like, okay, we're either doing this or we're not, and we have to figure it out, or else we're not going to be doing it at all. We're not going to have a business. And it had gotten to that point. And that probably is where we had a lot of cries, a lot of tough conversations, a lot of like, we're just closing it up. Just go back to work. or like, we don't want to, half an hour later, I don't really want to do that. I didn't mean that, and it's just hard. Like, it is hard work running a business. It's scary when you're making your own money and creating your own business. And hey, if I'm not sending quotes out and getting customers, like, we're not, we can't pay our bills. And like, that is a scary thing. Any type of sales like that, and just being responsible for that part of it. And so just taking that leap of faith, you always think when you go to do something like that, it's going to be worse on the other side, or all these what ifs. You don't think of the what if it's way better, or what if we're way more successful than we ever thought we would have been. So
I know what the pressures of running a small business and raising a family simultaneously are all about. Courtnee, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I know you probably got chickens to feed and some pigs to feed and horses to ride and rattlesnakes to chase today. But any parting words? And if you're going to give one piece of advice as your parting word, what are you going to give one piece of advice on?
Oh, whatever change you want to make, just start somewhere, right? I don't know if you can see it up there. One of my favorite quotes is continuous improvement over delayed perfection, because most of us on this call, entrepreneurs, business owners, type A, super perfectionists, don't want anyone to do anything else for them because this is how the business has become this successful. And I'm speaking to myself here. And so that quote is a constant reminder to myself that you just need to keep moving and keep making these little changes that you want to make, instead of just not doing it because it's not going to be perfect the first time you do it. And that has really helped us. You just got to take little bites at a time, right?
Absolutely. So thank you again for joining me today, Courtnee. And again, thank you for joining us on Decorator Academy.